to see us today. We've had other things to talk about, of course. Some amazing things that you might want to mention at the end of this testimony of your life so far. It's the 12th of February 2010. And how do you want to play this? And do you just want to go back into your early years in South Africa and just tell us what happened and take it from there?
Well, really, my name is Patricia'S. I was born in Bolton, near Manchester, in England. Brought up with a family that was religious but not born again. We went to church, but of course we were involved with the guys, the scouts, the brownies and different things. I was a Sunday school teacher. I did quite a lot in the children's church in my earlier years. But I was a very, very imaginative child, and I always wanted to find out more about the supernatural. The caravans in England, I was fascinated with.
Caravans?
The gypsies.
Oh, okay.
The gypsies I was very fascinated with, so of course they drew my attraction, and I used to go and visit them, and I went to quite a few. The one in Blackpool, South Sea, different places. I didn't realise at the time that things were happening in the spiritual realm, but I think I was always searching for something. I didn't know what it was, but I was searching. I was a person at the time that was quite quiet, even though I'm different now. I was very quiet. And I always wanted to go abroad. I never wanted to stay in England, I just wanted to go abroad. I don't know why. In my early years, there was quite a bit of rejection, really. I didn't know where I come from, because I was an adopted child to the family. And I think I was just searching my heart to find out where I came from. So then I decided, I met a friend that came along from South Africa, and she came along to me and through a place where I used to work. And when I worked there, I was told that this lady came to the firm that I worked, This lady came to the firm where I worked, and she said, is there anybody that she could go out with that night? So the lady in the office said, well, you must meet Patricia. Patricia's got a car, and I'm sure she'll take you somewhere. So what happened is, she lived very near me. She lived on Trelawney Road, Bolton. We both lived very near each other. She came up that night, she banged on the door, of course, and then she asked me something, and then she was on her way out, and I said to her, being a bit perceptive, I said, no, you've come here for another reason. And she says, oh, well, I'd just like to chat. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll bring my car out. I said, and we're going to have a travel. We're going to one of the local pubs in Bolton, and we're going to have a chat. So anyway, we went to the Black Swan.
So was this back in the 60s?
This is going back into the 60s,
60s then, yeah.
Went to the Black Swan, we sat there, and all of a sudden she started talking to me about South Africa. Well, I was absolutely thinking, whoa, that wasn't a place I'd ever think about going. But she went on so much about how the sun was there, and how it was a beautiful country, and I thought, well, this would be a nice place to go. So I started asking her more questions about how could I be able to go. Because she was going to go back. She was a nurse, and she was going back the following week. So I was very interested, and I said to her, I'd love to go. She said, well, why don't you? She said, you're single. She said, and they're looking for people like that because they know that, you'll be bringing money in, and it'll be different. So I thought, so anyway, I planned. I started to plan to go out to South Africa. I went through the South African embassy, and within 12 months, I'd actually got all the documents to go on the Pendennis Castle across to South Africa. My friend had already gone, and I was on my way. I came back to my mum, and I said I wanted to go to South Africa. And she said, oh, you don't want to go to Blackpool, anywhere like that? I said, no, I'm going to South Africa. I'd had a few disappointments in the UK with boyfriends. I got involved with quite a few parties, but I was on my way. So what happened is the liner came, and my family came down to see me off. and I got on the boat, and I was on the boat Pendennis Castle to, I thought, to Durban, but I finished up in Cape Town.
Oh, right.
Now it's quite a story, because when I landed up in Cape Town, because I should have really been in Johannesburg, and all my documents were signed for Johannesburg, when I got there was a train going out to Johannesburg, but because they signed me in at Cape Town, and I didn't know at the time, I shouldn't have been going on there. I should have been still staying in Cape Town. So what happened is I got on the train with all the people, and then halfway across on the train, they decided that they were going to have part going to Johannesburg and part going to Durban. So I put all my luggage on one of the sides, and the lady I'm sat with talking in the compartment said to me, she said, "Patricia, where's your luggage?" And I said, "Well, it's on the other side." She said, "That part is going out to some other part." I thought, "Oh, I better get it quickly." So I came rushing back to get it quickly to go on the right train. But what had happened is, I'm supposed to have been in Cape Town, all my papers were there, everything was signed. So when I arrived in Johannesburg, nobody knew that I was going.
So all your stuff was...
So all my stuff was with me, but I didn't know where to go, because they signed me up in a hotel in Cape Town. So I rang a little sort of office, and there was just a black man. He was just cleaning up nicely, and I said to him, "Can I speak to someone that knows about passports, documents, etc.?" He said, "Well, there's nobody here." I said, "Well, there better be someone here." I said, "Because I'm 10,000 miles away from England, and I've arrived in South Africa." He said, "Well, I may be able to go and talk to someone. Just hold the line a minute." And he went off to ring someone. Anyway, he rang someone, and he said, "Yes," he said, "this lady said she'll meet you in Rudiport." And I said, "But I'm in Johannesburg." He said, "Well, she's going to Rudiport." So I said, "Okay, I'll get back on the train," because I've seen Rudiport on the station, and I said, "I'll get back on the train and I'll go to Rudiport." Anyway, I went to Rudiport. The lady met me and then brought me back to her. She booked me into a hotel in Johannesburg. Now in Johannesburg, somebody had always told me not to go and be in Hillbrow. But of course, that's where all the immigrants come in, so Patricia landed up in Hillbrow. Well, Hillbrow is the international part of South Africa, and everything goes on there. The parties, all the even gay things.
If it's going to happen, it happens there, yeah.
But everything happens there, everything.
Yeah.
So anyway, I got in with the wrong crowd. I got in partying and having a good time, the guys and different things, and looking at films we shouldn't have looked at, and it got quite. But I still was interested in my fortune tellers. Anyway, I found out where the fortune tellers were, and I went down, and they were telling me, and I thought, "Oh, well, I wonder." And then there were so many in South Africa that I went to different ones to see if they were all saying the same. But in between people, there was a gentleman that came across my path, and in one of the parties I went to. And what happened is, he was called Cedric, and he said to me, "Have you been born again?" And I said, "Born again?" I said, "No." And he said, "Well, it's to do with religion." I said, "Oh yeah, I used to go to church." I said, "I love the church." He said, "Oh," he said, "no, it's got nothing to do with the church." He said, "It's being born again." Now he was a little bit merry, and I thought, well, I don't know what he's talking about, because he's
so he was a decent bloke.
He was a decent bloke. Yeah. But he was just very merry and, you know, getting a bit drunk and that. And I thought, but he got the seed in. He had the seed in. The seed was there then. Anyway, I was working in a place called Weber Wenzel, in an attorney's place, they call it, not the lawyers, attorneys. And what happened is, there was my manager, and I was doing audio typing, and she was also a Methodist minister. And she used to go on about being born again, and she took me to a Methodist camp, and this would be when I was about 35, and I actually gave my heart to Jesus, but because nobody followed me up and we all went back from the camp, nothing really happened. So of course I kept going back to the fortune tellers, but the deeper I went to the fortune tellers, the more it was going blacker and blacker, and things were getting really bad. I mean, one of them actually told me that I was going to be shot and I was going to be killed. Anyway, that situation, what she told me about, one day I met a guy, and he was supposed to have been a single guy, but found out he was married, and his wife found out about me, and there was a bit of a scene there, and unfortunately she was the one that tried to come round and kill me, even though I'd never been out with them. Anyway, as it was, it never happened, because she never got away with it, because I was able to find out what was going on before she arrived. But the fortune tellers were actually bringing me into a darker and a darker side, and it wasn't good. And then I remember Cedric, and I thought, what's he talking about? So I went to another party, and Cedric took me, and we went, and I said, Cedric, what are you talking about? So he said, oh, well, to be born again means to have a relationship with the Lord Jesus. He said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to a church on Sunday. So I said, oh, yeah, I'm used to churches, yeah, I'll come with you. So I went along with him, and we went to the upper room in Johannesburg. And in Johannesburg, of course, I'd come across a very big Pentecostal church. And everybody was more or less throwing their hands up, the drums were going, the symphony was going, I think about everything was going. And I sat there and I thought, what have I come into? And I didn't understand it at all, and I thought to myself, no, this is not for me. So anyway, when I got outside with Cedric, I said, Cedric, I'm not coming there anymore. And he said, why? I said, you've got to keep God holy. Coming in from a religious background, with just going to Methodist churches and that. And he said, well, he is holy. I said, no, count me out. And I went along, back home, sat there, but he still got that seed in. It was penetrating in me deeper now, and I didn't realise it. But then I went back to work the following week, and I came in contact with another lady, and her father was a pastor. So she said, her pastor of the Methodist church. So I said, oh, that's my church, I'll come along. Anyway, when I went to the Methodist church, I remember that morning thinking, this is dead. So when she came and said, are you coming again next week? I said, no, I won't be coming. So she said, well, where are you going? I said, I'm going to this church called the Upper Room. She said, oh, no, not you. She said, we've had so many people go out of this church to the Upper Room. And I said, well, yeah, well, I'm going. So anyway, the week after I rang Cedric, and I said, Cedric, is it possible to come to the Upper Room with you again? He said, but you said you didn't want to. I said, no, Cedric, this time I think I do. Anyway, what happened is we went back again to the Upper Room, and that day, that night, I just sat there and I thought, what is it? What have these people got? And the minister started to talk, and he started to say about being born again, what Cedric had already discussed with me. So what happened after that, they gave an altar call. And I was the first one down there with a lot more people.
Can you say that again? An altar call? Yeah.
That was when they invited us to belong to Jesus.
Right, okay.
Yeah, they invited us to know Jesus more. And I went down there, and I know the pastor came along the line, and he said to us, he said, have you been in the occult? Well, I didn't know what I was in with the fortune tellers. I didn't know the name. And I said, well, I've been to Japan, I've been to China, He said, no, not that. He said, have you been involved with fortune telling? Have you been in teacup reading? I said, I've been in the lot. He said, okay. He said, you go along with my wife. She'll take you into that room. She'll talk to you, and we'll discuss it then.
Can you just expand on this, because people obviously watching this will probably just not quite get it first time round, but you're talking about spiritual stuff, things that are done like Ouija boards, reading the signs in
the zodiac. How it all started, my relationship with a demonic side was, I started originally with the astrologer. I loved to see what sign I was, and coming under the sign of Pisces, I would look in Jean Dixon's books. I would look in every magazine, the paper, just to see. And this originally started me all off at the beginning and took me further into a deeper sign of the occult.
Because this is very real, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is real, and people don't
really
get that.
No.
Don't get it from the churches that they go to.
No.
Many of them, I would say probably 99% of them,
no, they don't.
wouldn't hear what you're going to be sharing on this, because I don't want to dwell